It is day 43. Hello, everyone. Welcome if you're watching live. Welcome if you're watching the recording. It's day 43 of 100 days of code with the man, the myth, the legend, Leon Andersen. How are you doing?
Hello, hello. I'm doing great. Bit exhausted, but I'm happy to that I had a day where I could immerse myself in code again. Um, I did. I finished the creating dynamic HTML section, um, and even though it's just 1 hour 19 in watch time, um, I it took me like 4 hours or something because I coded along everything, and I always had to stop, type, stop, type, and that took quite a while. So I'm happy that I'm uh, I'm very sure that a week ago it would have been 6 hours from my typing speed. um, so I'm happy that my typing that I'm also working on typing. I mean, yeah, not. I mean, not 50%, but yeah, it's less than 50 doesn't sound that great. Could be 1%. Doesn't matter. Anyway, um, um, so yeah, basically, the section was about templating, and I mean, before I go into that, I have one big question, and that is, am I ever going to use that? Because you said this section is not that important. Um, and during all of it, I was like, okay, this is cool stuff. I mean, a lot of that is useful. But when but as you said, I probably won't use that. I was like, okay, um, how uh, how much should I appreciate this section? um, and yeah, maybe that's the question beforehand.
Um, I think if it was fun for you, then you should appreciate it. But in terms of usefulness, like DJF is barely used. So it can help you, like the 20% of it or so can maybe work as a foundation for you. So when you learn more stuff in the future, it helps you to put it into more context just because you have seen more of what can be done with JavaScript. But again, in terms of just like usage, all of the tools that we're going to use later do not rely on EJS.
Yeah, I think appreciation of the section was actually not what I meant. What I meant was more like, how much should I take this knowledge as context for um, how I'm going to be working and how web development and web development works in general.
I
Um,
would say like 20% probably because what the stuff
okay.
that is happening is like obviously you're going to have loops and conditionals, but it's going to look different. And also the underlying structure of basically having like a template, but it's not really called a template in React. It's more like basically you write JSX, which is just HTML and JavaScript. So some of the concepts are there, but a lot of it is just super EJS specific, and therefore you're going to do similar stuff, but with a different syntax because the tools just have a different syntax.
Okay, I mean, as long as some of the structure is overlapping, that's then it's still worth it. But yeah, sometimes I was like, okay, that's very weird syntax, partly, and seems very clunky. And um, but yeah, some of the things, especially the partials at the end, and how to set the folder structures and all that stuff. I mean, yeah, and how to, with the loops basically, how to use the same snippet of code on the same type of data on multiple objects of the same type of data, or multiple, I don't know if it's called objects then, but data sets of the same type of data, to loop over them and show them in the same format, for example, just as Reddit posts that you can infinitely. It's great to see that this is how this is done, or that this is achieved through loops. Yeah, what else useful was there? What else? Yeah, I don't know if that it's going to be so useful, but or if that's going to be used quite often, but using if conditionals as a way to to error handle, or basically try to build something similar to try and catch. For example, if the post has an image, then show the image, else show console.log not found. These seem more like workaround, I don't know, improvised things. Is that going to be, is that something going to be used in the future as well?
Well, yeah, you're going to have stuff like conditional rendering of certain things in your app. For example, let's say you have different user interfaces for someone who's authenticated and signed up to your app versus an anonymous user. So you're gonna have stuff like a conditional rendering, but again, the syntax in JavaScript in React is going to be completely different from the templating that is probably done in EJS.
Okay, but the logic is the same, I guess.
Yeah, the contextual, that's why I said I think the contextual stuff is good for you, because now you can, when you learn this, how to do it with the newer technologies, you'll be able to, oh, okay, I can reference this back to how it was done to EJS. But now the stuff that you're learning with React is what you want to try and burn into your memory. Like if you forget all of the EJS stuff, that's totally fine. Just keep it in your subconscious mind in the context of how things work.
Got it. Yeah, I mean, yeah, conditionals, loops, we talked about that real quick. And the rest was basically just how to access this different, for example, how to, we have a folder, public folder, and inside of that we can put a, I think it was package.json. Let me check. Yeah, and also CSS and Bootstrap stuff can be inside of the public folder as well, and then you have to okay, the data.json can be in the main directory. It doesn't have to be in the public folder, I'm seeing. But yeah, like CSS and Bootstrap can be in the public folder, and then you can access the public folder by using app.use express.static path.join dir name public. Like, yeah, there's just some, yeah, how, like it's a bit, it seems a bit like the requiring, and yeah, I think, yeah, you have to require path beforehand as well, and you have to if you want to access data from the data.json, you have to require that as well. You basically can require files, the access of files in the index, and then when you want access to that inside of other, for example, HTML sites that maybe are subsites of your website, then you have to, or then you can access it by doing the app.get / the subsite, and then inside of the request response function, you can do a response.render, and you also have to, of course, I think we did that to some degree yesterday as well. Oh no, that yesterday was the thing with the node ID, where we used the colon, which was basically a placeholder or which you could then access through the params. But today was the thing that I wanted to go to was const data equals and then the data that you required outside of the app.get, like at the beginning of the index.js. So in this case, Reddit data, and then square brackets subreddit. So then you have the data that is specific to your subreddit, or basically to your specific path of the subsite that you're on. And then you can put inside of the response.render with curly brackets data, and then you can access all kinds of data from the from the data.json that is related to your, or that is part of your specific subsite, and inside our HTML, or in this case EJS document, or inside of that you can then access, for example, the post or subscribers, subscriber count, description, name, like all these different objects, or not objects, but data points that are saved in your database. So this was basically mimicking the rough process to link databases, or how to access databases to fill in the blanks of your website. For example, if you would build something like Reddit. So we built a very rough rough clone of Reddit. And if I mean, if I'm saying very rough, then I mean maybe half of a percent of what Reddit does. But yeah, just the basic structure and how to template it, basically. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, what else? Yeah, how to set up, how to use Bootstrap inside of that, how to make yeah, that's basically all just basically setup and installation processes. Yeah, the views directory. Let me check. Yeah, in the views directory, you basically have all the sub sites. So for example, if you have localhost 3000 slash, and then you put in the site, or let's say for each app.get slash subsite, you can put one of the files inside of the views folder there. So this way you don't have to write all the code inside of the index.js, but then you can write it in a different file. And yeah, the partials was basically that I can not only save like how do I say it? That I can template whole subsites, but that I can also template yeah, basically different sections of a site, and then I can build my subsites with like snippets that I can reuse, that I can save in a separate document. And this way you don't have to copy huge amounts of code, for example, for if you want to have the same nav bar everywhere, you don't have to copy like the 15 lines. Instead, you can just use the include line, and then yeah, this makes it way easier to and it also auto updates. Then you have only one place where you have to change something if you want to change over all subsites. And I use and I really like that concept of those partials, of those snippets, code snippets. Yeah, I mean that's pretty much all there was to the section, but with a lot of just practice and using it in action, basically.
Nice. So I prepared in the background for you just a little bit insight so you can already see how you will be able to map the things that you've learned today to the newer tools. So there's something, I don't know, one thing I didn't pull up is the first bit of overview. So let's go here and share this. So there's a framework called Next.js. I'm going to make it a little bigger for you guys. And this is basically the biggest React framework out there, and definitely one of the two alongside Remix that you want to pick up and learn how to use. And what I did is in different tabs that I'm going to show you now, I just opened basically the equivalent to some of the concepts that you've learned today in the main learner that Next.js gives you here. So let's open the first one. So this is the basic file structure of the basic learner. So obviously there's a lot going on, but the main thing that I want to draw your attention to is this little folder, the public folder, which you've also got to know today, right? And if we click on it and look what's inside of it, we can see stuff that is a little bit similar to the stuff that you had today. So there's no CSS here or JavaScript. There can be CSS in here, but just for this example, they chose to not include any CSS in here. But usually the public server serves any assets. And one of the main assets that you're going to have probably in an app are, for example, images, right? And it's just convention in the public folder to put all your static assets, such as CSS, such as images. In old apps, it also used to be JavaScript, but because the newer framework are just all JavaScript, the JavaScript just lives naturally throughout the rest of the app instead of being confined to a specific folder. Then another thing that you learned about today, which is kind of the equivalent to templating, is components. So here you can see main, which is just an HTML tag. If you've never seen it, it's a regular HTML tag, just like div, just like li, ul, and so on, all of those that you've already used. But
Yes,
this one with a capital B, sorry?
seen it.
Yeah, okay, both awesome. So this one with the capital B, breadcrumbs, that is a React component, and that's basically the equivalent to templating. So this is something that gets reused. And like, don't worry if you're right now, you're like, I don't understand anything of it. It's just to show you already the similarities. So in a few weeks or whenever you get to the React part, you can already make a little bit faster that connection because you've seen it more, even though there's probably a lot of stuff that's still unfamiliar, like, for example, this part of it. But the main thing is, yeah, there's reusability too. And this reusability is some of the stuff that you can map to the new stuff that you're going to be learning. And then you've talked about loops. And here you can see a loop executed with a map function where there are some customers and you just loop over all the customers. And then for each customer, you render some JSX, which basically looks the same as HTML. Just instead of class, we have to write class name. So some of the words are a little bit different. But here you can also see a component image, which is basically the same as a template. Yeah, so here you can see the equivalent of the looping that you've learned about today. And then here we have the equivalent to the if-then statements that you've learned about today, where here we have a conditional just with the ternary operator that I believe, I don't know if they've code commented, but I believe we looked at it briefly in one of our code calls. So yeah, here you just have regular if statement that you can also mix and match with your code. So this is just all to show you the powerful stuff that you picked up today. Even though the syntax is going to be different, the principles behind it are going to be the same and you're going to reuse it.
Awesome. Nice.
Nice. Then any last words, questions, thoughts, insights?
No, I think that's it.
Amazing. Then this has been day 43 of the code call. And I think today we learned a valuable lesson, which is in your career as a programmer, you're probably going to learn different technologies, especially nowadays as there's the term called JavaScript fatigue, because in the past few years, JavaScript has developed so rapidly, and even the different frameworks have developed so rapidly that some people felt overwhelmed and couldn't catch up. But the great thing about this is that a lot of the time you're just doing the same thing, just with a slightly different syntax, and maybe the new framework, the reason why you switched from the old way of doing it to the new way of doing it is because it does a lot of the stuff that you used to do manually for you automatically. So the basic gist of the lesson is you're going to learn how to do the same thing, but just faster with more ways. And as the technology develops, you're going to become more powerful. And just having that lower level understanding helps you to understand those higher level things, and seeing the same thing done over and over again in different ways will just solidify that knowledge. It's basically how in natural language you can express a concept in different ways. Like maybe you have had epiphanies or metaphors that use different words to capture the same meaning. One thing that comes to mind is maybe like people talk about different models of the world, while they talk about maybe levels of consciousness, they talk about spiral dynamics, but then there are a lot of overlaps between all of these topics. And that's kind of how it is here, because in the end, we want to be able to calculate something. We want to be able to maybe render something on the screen of a user. And these end goals and the means are always pretty similar. So, yeah. stay coding. If you're on your coding journey, make sure that you get a little bit of code in every day. If you want to have a little study buddy, have questions, you can always join the code call. We're streaming every day live. You can leave your questions in the comments. We're going to address them. If you're catching the recording, why don't you join us live? It's twice as fun if you join us live. And thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been the Code Call with
Leon Andersen and my mentor.
Alef Nil from TEDx Dev. As always, AFAB and ADC. See you guys next time.
Until tomorrow.